Hey everybody, you've got Tim, Ryan, and Jeremy with you today. Today we're going to be talking a little bit of a recap of West Michigan IT Summit. So Ryan, Jeremy, let's dive into this. I know we all were sitting in a couple of different sessions. So just to kick things off, I'll kind of start here. I sat in the Cato session, thinking like a cyber criminal, and one of the coolest things that was discussed was this concept around Google hacking. Now, obviously, he had to be very, very careful on how he did this and what he actually did. But man, I didn't realize how easy that was.
I think it was actually a bit scary to see how you could use these publicly facing tools that are indexing our data in real time, excuse me, as soon as it posts. And there's instructions there on how to put together algebraic formulas and how to do these searches, and say, I share that. I don't even want to try to give an example because I might get myself in trouble. But to be able to quickly use social engineering tactics and find out how to target somebody, how to get them to click on something because it's relatable and they want to say, yeah, I want to sign up for that free offer, or yeah, I'm into that kind of hobby, but they also control the purse strings to your organization. They're going to be a target. And that was really eye-opening again to see how easy it is to get that info right off of Google.
Yeah, the mindset of that was just insane. I mean, even going down to the fact that he was able to, again, this was like a kind of like a test, but he was able to access a doctor's PC. And a criminal tried selling this, and he was going through the concept of how easy that was. So, yeah. All right.
I'm going to touch on, I just found a constant theme that I'm hearing from our vendor, from security professionals, from news outlets, from all, like the Verizon DBI report, is this kind of focus on the foundation. If you look at the CIS recommendations, it's really the first 1, 2, I could probably argue the number 5 and 6 around account management, but this getting back to knowing what you have, knowing that it's up to date, just a couple of these foundational cores that frankly get put on the side burner. Usual routine maintenance gets put on the side burner for the next new project. And it's so much about securing your organization and keeping it protected is knowing what you have and making sure that it's up to date. It's just one of those themes that I saw over and over and over again, everybody talk about. It's good. It's a bit refreshing.
They just acquired another organization, and now there's this big project to identify all the things. So man, that's super, super relevant.
Having probably hundreds of systems kind of dumped in your lap to sort out, because that investment in just knowing what you have and the routine maintenance, for mergers and acquisitions, that's a huge thing. Jeremy, I mean, talk about third-party risk and supply chain risk.
And we know this because we got engaged in a ton of different opportunities last year, helping clients that needed just a specific thing. And every time we tried to dive in and understand why they needed it, the client would come back to us and say, I know that we need to dive into that, but we need this right now. Fast forward 15 years or 10 years, MPLS is almost gone. I mean, the adoption rate of SD-WAN has been huge. Zero Trust may be that next step in the security stack. And I say may because who knows what else is going to come up, but it does fundamentally change the way that businesses handle their cybersecurity practices. But they kicked off their sessions by having a breakout session. And one of the big things that came up from that breakout session was supply chain risks. We got into groups of 8 people in like 5 groups of 8 people. And over and over and over again, I heard from the different businesses that were there, no matter how large or small they were, that on the top of their list was supply chain risk and third-party risk. And Ryan, do you hear this more often now as well in your discussions outside of the summit?
It has definitely been top in all the discussions, whether it's however businesses are communicating, looking at the data that they're communicating, being able to say that, I'm not getting an email spoofed from someone that, I do event planning with, and they send me an invoice. Is this really the invoice? Clicking on a PDF document. It is about being able to help your business recognize who they're doing business with, not being taken advantage of by, again, social engineering. It's definitely coming up with cyber insurance, making sure that you're aligned with your cyber insurance, from that, what is your vendor risk? What if your business goes down? How does it impact people that you do business with?
I think one of the comments that Ray had made specifically, and there was actually we had another speaker that made a comment on this, but out of like 26 cyber insurance claims that he's only seen payout on like 2. So that created a whole nother conversation as to like reading the fine print and all that. But
I was actually fortunate to be on the U.S. Signal Beers with Engineers panel talking about, should I be concerned if my infrastructure is in the cloud, that I'm backing up to the cloud? And I said something to the effect that, we all remember that the cloud is just somebody else's hardware. So if my primary infrastructure is in the public cloud, there's nothing stopping me from taking a copy of that and backing up to, a local MSP provider or cloud services provider who has the capabilities of spinning that infrastructure up should I have a problem in the public cloud. There are public cloud outages. Azure has had outages, AWS has had outages. It doesn't matter if you're in the cloud, if you're on-prem, there's a way to kind of make all of this work and adhere to those best practices. I think that was refreshing to kind of wrap all that together and offer that out to the people at that session.
One of the other sessions that I sat in was Vigilant. CEO Chris Nyheis. Chris always does an amazing job at our events. He's very fascinating to listen to because he speaks at a very great level. But the topic or the concept was like this art of warfare. So he gave a couple of case studies, and I'm blanking on the actual scenario, but it was like 700 AD, and the concept was like you're essentially creating you're letting the threat actors come in the way that you want them to. So you're like luring them in. So again, I should have written down a few more details, but when I think of like the art of warfare and what enterprises are doing, we don't really hear that too often. It's like, we're creating this lure for threat actors come in a very specific way. So that way we can see them when we flip on the switch, we know that they're there.
I'll say, I think we'll start to see those numbers, and we'll have to take a bit of grain of salt with where those numbers are coming from. But as organizations are using these data-driven tools to understand how long it's taking, how many different events that it's stopping, we'll be able to kind of understand what is the impact of using a managed SIEM and SOC provider or an email security tool that looks at the behavior of what's going on in your mailboxes to make intelligent decisions. I'm not going to use the industry buzz terms, but those types of algorithms and learning models are meant to help reduce the time, detect faster, stop things before they're a problem. And there should be kind of the opposite look at that, which I think you're talking about is, if it takes 6 to 9 months to recover from an event and millions of dollars, then an ounce of prevention is worth a pound to cure. We should be making sure that we're taking our systems to the next level to be prepared for what's going on now and what's next.
Yeah, you mentioned stats, so it made me think of the 612 report that just came out regarding SASE. So for those that are interested, we'll put that as a link in the comments below. And I'm a big fan of believing that next year when when the other 612 report comes out on SASE, we'll probably see a few more stats around it because we're seeing more and more people talking about it. We're seeing more and more people adopt it. So, yeah.
There has not been enough talk about DDoS protection. It's one of the top availability killers, one of the top disruptors right alongside ransomware.
DDoS protection is not cheap, plain and simple. This idea that why would I spend more on protection than I actually spend on the circuit I'm attempting to protect?
Yep.
I've heard that over and over and over again. Now, the irony of that situation is that your access circuits or your DIAs shouldn't be expensive. I mean, they're a little tiny, they may be the on-ramp to your ERP, or they may be the on-ramp to your online sales platform. So they're important, but they aren't the thing that carries the bulk of the cost. And we've learned this over and over and over again. Our customers spend as much, if not more, on security than they do on the actual services that they're attempting to secure.
The numbers are out there, the attacks and what the disruption from a DDoS can do to you. There's multi-terabit DDoS events that have been thwarted by these, that are, hours where they're using 70,000 endpoints with a vulnerability in there to target traffic, just throw UDP traffic at you to take your services offline. And there's essentially nothing that you can do at that point and just wait for them to stop. We're having that protection in place. It's just the same. I mean, what is the cost of closing the doors and sending everyone home for an entire day?
Because we spend so much time talking about ransomware, above and beyond anything else that comes up over and over and over again. And a lot of the clients that we meet with don't seem to think that if they don't have public facing servers, or they're using all SASE applications, and they don't seem to think that it matters. When was the last time you sat down and actually asked a company, if we eliminate your ability to use internet inbound, what would happen to your organization?
Yeah.
Talk me through, you're down for 24 hours because no one in the world can get to you. Tell me what would happen. I have one other thing that I think that came up on the event. This is really, really worth noting because we've had this discussion over and over and over again. So during the closing speech, the individual doing the closing speech at the West Michigan IT Summit shared a really good point. He was asking companies about what they do and how they actually test to make sure the security and the processes they have in place work.
Yep.
And he made a statement and he said, when was the last time you actually tested everything and tested your AD or tested it with AD?
Your recovery plan for that critical Active Directory infrastructure that, kind of how we were talking earlier, because we've been busy on other projects, probably isn't the cleanest, probably has accounts that are still enabled, maybe hasn't done an operating system upgrade or operating system hardening, all of those foundational things that can lead to a more secure and ransomware proof, being able to, put in place those other protections that we need to enable our businesses forward, like DDoS protection. Let's get back to basics and make sure we have a clean house.
Yeah. Are your tools doing what they said they would do when you bought them?
And your processes, have you updated your processes and have the people to staff it? We talked about that too, is just trying to do more with less. And there is a shortage of workers out there. There's a lot of work to be done and not enough really qualified, competent people to fill that need. We've got to work smarter.
We'd love to either help answer some questions or help set up a conversation with said person or said vendor. So that's what we're here for, and this is why we do this summit is for those of you watching. Again, thanks for spending some time with us, and we'll talk to everybody soon. See ya.